Hello.
Hello and welcome back to
Welcome. Girls Gone Spooky.
Love the
Me
accent.
too.
I love it.
Um, I don't know who I'm mimicking, but
Oh.
see what I did there? I'm Liv.
And I'm Amy. Or am I?
And or is
We don't
she?
know.
hmm Do you
Yeah,
wanna kick us off, sister?
sure. So, yeah, I have a little hook today um, for our topic. And of course, this was a comment on Reddit as I was researching, but it's one of those 2 sentence horror stories, they call them. So all it is I was sitting in my room when my mom called me. As I went downstairs, I heard my mom from the next room saying, "Don't go, I heard that too." So that's
Oh,
how we kick it off.
oh my god, that's fucking scary.
Mhm.
Don't
Yeah.
go. I heard that too.
Mhm.
Yowza.
Yeah.
So mimics, what
Yes.
are they? Like what the fuck are they?
Yeah,
Um
good question.
this is an interesting episode, I think, because we've talked about doppelgangers a lot. We've alluded to mimics before.
Mhm.
And I actually have like a lead in to what I think maybe we should do for next episode, which I'll get to in due time.
Mhm.
Mimics, like the first thing I do whenever we have a topic is just search like for foundational like definitions. And what's
Yeah,
weird is there's like no consensus. It's
right.
like they're not doppelgangers. So, like, arguably, mimics are just creatures or entities that can create the same sound or close enough to you or someone you know.
Mhm.
Um, they don't have to show up, they don't have to, like, appear to you. It's
Right.
just the voice.
Mhm.
But then there's a lot of like doppelganger mimic crossover. So like my first exposure to these, and I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, was that woman Morgan Lambert, I think is her last name. Let me double check because I feel like I've referenced
Mhm.
her a lot. Yeah, Morgan
Yeah.
Lambert. She needs some cred.
Mhm.
Um, and she's talked a ton about. She lives in Appalachia. Her husband, there's like a mimic of her
Right.
husband that she's like caught on camera,
Mm.
like where her husband hasn't been home and she's like called his phone to make sure it's not him, like he wasn't home when she didn't expect him or something, and it's
Yeah.
like fully another dude, but it like looks like him. Really creepy,
Yeah.
like really really eerie.
Mhm.
And it'll kind of like follow her around. So like she was
Yeah.
like filming on this like I think some farm that her family owns or land that her family owns, and was like it's haunted, and was like explaining stuff, and you can like see him in the background. And then later she goes back and is like, I posted this video and like my husband wasn't with me. Like he
Mhm.
was home like a 45-minute drive away or whatever, but like
Yeah.
that looks just like my husband. Like it's just
Yeah.
really creepy. So there's a lot of like, is it just vocal? Is it also visual? Are doppelgangers and mimics the same thing? And then there
Yeah.
are other people who say they're actually ghosts who can just
Mhm.
mimic a voice,
Yeah.
either of another person or I guess like not speak like themselves. But that seems like demonic inherently.
Mhm.
Like that's not like a human spirit. So then
Yeah.
that's the other case is like demonic, like mimicry is known to be very demonic.
Mhm.
So there's just a lot of question marks. So I
Yeah.
wanted to start with a couple stories that I watched like kind of back to back, which I thought were really interesting.
Mhm.
So this first one is a user on TikTok named Auntie Matrix did like a what's that called? Oh my god, when you like react on a
Uh,
TikTok. Oh my god, why can't I think of it? It's not like
I
a split, but it's something like that.
Oh.
Anyway, they did that. They like
Mhm.
stitch. They stitched it.
Okay.
So it starts. So this is like I'm basically like recapping Jen's story. So she's like last night, me and my husband went camping, um, and they had to cut their trip short because they were both really freaked out about like what happened once they were unpacked. So the
Mm-hmm.
campsite they're at was very like primitive camping setup. There's a long road to get into it, a couple campsites throughout this like wooded area, but they're in very deep woods. There's like a lake on one side and then deep forest on all other three sides surrounding.
Mm-hmm.
The campsite was really big, so they were able to drive their car onto that lot, like onto the camping area. And she describes the car as being like way on one side of the campsite. And again, like the campsite's big.
Yeah.
So her husband was over there cooking dinner by the car because they have the cooking set up, like I think off the back of the car, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, if you like were to walk away from him, there'd be the fire pit and a tent where they were planning on sleeping, and then you know deep forest kind of all around.
Yeah.
So she is on that like far side. So like there's the car on one end, there's the tent and the fire pit, and then there's like just kind of an open area and then more woods. So she's
Mm-hmm.
like, I got a whiz. She doesn't say that, but I wish she did.
Uh-huh.
She says she's going into the woods to do her business. I was like, you got
Okay.
a whiz.
Uh-huh.
So she's going into the woods to take a whiz, and behind her, as she's over there, directly behind her, she hears meow meow. And
Oh.
this has some context. So this is like this silly thing that she and her husband do where they'll just say meow meow. Like it's just like a cute thing, like call and response, whatever kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they just say it every once in a while, but it's like directly behind her. And so she's like, and it's his voice. So it's not just like a voice, it's like his voice saying
Yeah.
meow meow, except she describes it as being super monotone. So it's like meow meow. Like
Yeah.
just really kind of like weird vibe. And
Mm-hmm.
also like, I'm trying to pee. Like
Yeah. Back
I
up.
don't need you right up here. And again,
Mm-hmm.
he's far. He's like, I don't know, 50 feet away or something
Mm-hmm.
at the car cooking.
Yeah.
I mean, he's thinking he snuck up behind me, but if he actually is over there, there's no way she'd be able to hear him that far. He
Right.
would have had to yell in order for her to hear him.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was like not a yell. This is directly behind her. So she spins
Yeah.
around because she's like kind of pissed. She's like, why would you follow me over here? Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to pee, and don't leave the food unattended also when there are like wild
Yeah.
animals everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so she spins around and there are like trees blocking her view of the campsite because she's kind of into the woods, but like she leans and he's there. He's still cooking, like listening to music, vibing. So she's like, what the fuck? And so she goes over to him. She's like, did you just fucking sneak up on me and like sprint back over here? And she emphasizes multiple times that this man is not a runner. He's not
What's
quick.
she trying to
He's not
say?
speedy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So she's like, mm-mm. So she's like, did you like fucking follow me to pee and then run? Like, why would you do that? And he's like, what do you no? Like, why would I do
Yeah.
that? And so she explains what happened, and they're both like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know about this. So
Yeah.
they're like, let's maybe pack up our stuff. So he's like, let's get the fuck out of here. I think he's the one. We'll put the camping trip on hold. We'll go somewhere else tomorrow and like try again.
Mhm.
So they pack everything up. And as they're packing up, they start hearing on all three sides of the forest, like something moving in the
Mhm.
trees and like circling. It sounds like the sound is like going around them.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, of course, there are wild animals, but like she said, it sounded like something really big, but like it was circling too quickly for it to be like a bear. So they're like
Yeah.
hearing all this stuff on all sides of them, and they're
Yeah.
like, fuck that. So they're trying, and this is like while they're packing up. So they're not like
Yeah.
in the car leaving yet. So they're trying to get their dog Ellie into the car, and she is like he's packing up something on the other side of the car, putting it in the back, and she's like helping the dog into the like back seat.
Mhm.
she hears something like from the tree line run up behind her and stop,
Mm.
like a few feet behind her. And she is
Mhm.
like, what the fuck? So she's like looking around for her husband. It's obviously not him. Like he was
Yeah.
freaked out too, so he would not have done that. But he hears
Mhm.
something run like fast and stop a few feet behind her. She spins around. She has a flashlight. She's like, what the fuck is going on? So anyway, they haul the
Mm.
fuck ass out of
Yeah.
there.
Oh, it got so close to her.
They got really close to her. And that idea of like
Yeah.
is
Ew.
really fucking scary to me. I don't like that
Yeah.
one
No.
single bit.
No,
Mm-mm.
like, skittering around. I don't
Yeah,
like that.
do not like.
No.
Um,
Ugh.
so yeah, that's my first one. My
Yeah.
second one is a user on TikTok named Allie. Her handle is Allie Chase World, spelled
Mhm.
Cheys and then WRLD. She's like an Appalachian queen. She's got a ton of stories about this stuff. But
Mhm.
another user, Katie Flossblog,
Oh.
it says, asked her, "Have you ever quote not seen anything?" And
Mm.
she's talking about this one time in, of course, the Appalachian Mountains.
Mhm.
And she said, yes, like, of course, this has happened. And she said, she prefaces it by saying, like, I actually still don't like talking about this because it, like, really creeped her out. It
Yeah.
really scares her still. So as kids, they spent a lot of time playing in the woods, and often with like no adults because why?
Yeah.
So one day she and her cousin are like outside playing in the woods together, and she remembered it being really cloudy on this particular day in the way that, like, when it's cloudy, it's kind of like locking in the moisture. It feels, the air feels kind of heavy. So she was like, I
Mhm.
felt this kind of heavy energy just generally on this
Yeah.
day. And she said, we'd been out there for a few hours, and then she could have sworn she heard her mom yelling her name and
Mm.
just saying, like, from the distance, like coming from the house, like, Allie, 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 over and over again. But it
Mhm.
was her mom's voice, but it was like it sounded a little bit off, which is a
Off.
really
Mhm.
common kind of thread. Um, but the weird part was she wasn't at home. She was actually at her grandmother's house, and her mom was like 40
Oh.
minutes away, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and to make it weirder, and this is why I picked this one to share, because it's like these stories are kind of a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Allie is her first name, and that's what her account says now. But she was like, up until like last year, I didn't go by Allie. I went by my middle name. And she was like,
Oh.
and every time something like this has happened, it's always referred to me as Allie, which is like really
Hmm.
creepy because it's like,
Yeah.
how does it know a name that no one's ever called her?
Right.
So anyway, there's
Yeah.
and I'll kind of like, just to relate this back to the first story, a bunch of the comments were like, did you guys say meow meow like while you were out
Right.
on the campsite, right? Because it's like
Mhm.
this thing they do. But how the
Yeah.
fuck does the mimic know that? And she didn't seem to like fully remember. She's like, I honestly don't remember. Like, we were so freaked out. Now I like don't really trust my memory of the rest of the day. But
Yeah.
like, she's like, I don't think so. It's like something we don't say that frequently. So it's
Mhm.
weird that there's like insight into your
Yeah.
mind and maybe like energetic like transfer sort of,
Yeah. Like
along with their
psychic.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
Exactly. So
Weird.
anyway, creepy that like this thing knows her first name, which
Mhm.
yeah, I don't like that. So
No,
she
not at
continues with the
all.
story and says, like, you've probably heard, and I think maybe, I don't think, I think maybe we didn't talk about this in the Appalachia episode, but there's like a principle, not like a rule, but what people say is like the farther away it sounds, the closer it actually is in
Hmm.
Appalachia, because it's trying to like like lull you into a false sense
Yeah.
of security. And
Ugh, yeah.
so she said that it sounded like it was in the distance, and after hearing her name like 10 times, and it sounded like far, like from the house, she turns around and she said, this like actually really fucking scares me, because this
Mhm.
is like putting a visual to what a mimic entity on its own might look like, not paired with a doppelganger, but like on
Yeah.
its own.
Mhm.
She says it's hard for her to describe, but it was like this black figure
Mm.
crawling out of the leaves,
Ew.
like out of like the bank alongside the like wheat
No.
that was back there. So her cousin saw it too. She
Oh
started
god.
running, and Allie, like the cousin bolts, and
Mhm.
Allie remembered her grandmother saying like, do not run from
Mm.
what's out there because they will make chase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're establishing yourself as prey if you
Mhm.
do that. And so it was really not easy because she was so fucking scared, but
Yeah.
she just acted like she didn't see it. And she
Mhm.
just casually walked back to her grandmother's house, like quickly, but as calmly as she could. And she could hear the thing behind her the whole way.
Oh
So
god.
when she got back to yeah, so when she got back to her grandmother's house, confirmed her mother was not there,
Mhm.
and she asked her granny, as she calls her, and she says she hasn't been yelling for her. So like there was no
Mm.
one calling her except for whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah. Oh god.
So
Yeah.
scary, like
Very.
so freaking scary.
Yeah, and that's like when I was reading these stories,
Yeah,
everyone was like, "You have to ignore it. Like that's the best thing to
yeah.
do." But how do you do that? It
So
would
it's
set me on
yeah.
edge.
It would set me. I mean, I think your heart would feel like a bird in a cage. I mean, it would
Yeah.
just be like you'd be
Mhm.
going nuts. But I think I don't know. It's funny because I was having a lot of trouble sleeping. I've just been having a lot of trouble sleeping recently,
Mhm.
and something that I can never remember the name of it, but that sensation, or that, not sensation, but like psychological event where like if it's dark, your brain like makes things appear
Yeah.
where they are not. And like
Mhm.
my question is like, do you just kind of have access to seeing something that actually is there, or is it your brain truly making something up? Like I just don't know what I believe. Same as like Slender Man and all those things that are like made up. It's like, are they,
Mhm.
sure they're made up, but are they like manifested into existence? Because I do kind of think that's possible.
Yeah.
um but anyway, my whole point is like, I, of course, when it's 3 a.m. and I wake up and I can't fall back asleep, I'm like, Hat Man. And so
Yeah.
my brain is like looking for that.
Yeah.
And of course, it conjures it up
Mhm.
sometimes. And so I've literally like made a rule where I don't. Did you just see that
Yeah,
little
what
bubble come up?
was that? It was a thumbs up.
I don't like that at
No.
all.
Let's okay, thanks for listening.
Okay,
Bye.
good. Oh my God, I just got red. Oh my God, that made
Yeah,
me really
I'm, like,
nervous.
really sweaty now. What was that?
I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna try to
Ew,
recreate that
olive.
later because I don't
No.
like that one bit.
No.
I reject anything trying to enter my
Same.
space. It's a
Please,
hard pass.
please.
It's a hard
Thank you.
pass. So, anyway, what I've decided is I just like don't, I just am like, nope, that's not a thing that's happening. Good night, and go back
Yeah.
to sleep. And it
Oh,
works. Now
ah,
I'm
I
freaked the
feel
fuck out though.
too.
So,
I'm, like, gonna start shaking. Cause what
what's
were you
weird,
saying when it did that? You were
I don't know.
like,
I don't even want to
"Hat
think about it.
man,"
I don't
and it
even
was
want to think
like
about it.
thumbs up.
Fuck that, dude. Fuck that. Um, oh,
Okay.
what's weird is that that's a new feature on like the iOS update.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Anyway, it's
Okay.
fine. Nothing is allowed in my space.
Yeah,
So
no,
fuck right off.
mine either.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, no, absolutely not. Um, okay, so anyway, moving right along, there's a third one.
Okay.
Um, so this is from a user, Savannah, who her handle is that witch up the holler. And she has like the most
Love it.
like quintessential Appalachian drawl. I am obsessed with her voice. So like
Okay.
please go listen to her videos because
Yeah,
it's excellent.
okay.
Um, but so she posted one that's like, let's talk about doppelgangers and mimics. And basically, she tells a few stories about like she talks a lot about how it's just like a creepy thing and she's not sure if they're separate or if they're the same thing. Like I think she has a theory that it's like the same entity, but it has an ability to like manifest in two different ways.
Mhm.
Um, so she's talking about like when she was 17 or something, she was working in her church, and I'm like trying to remember what denomination it was, but anyway, she's like working in church on a weekend, and she was the teenage children of youth pastor, so I
Mm.
guess a youth pastor.
Yeah.
So she was working in this like tiny little closet in the office in the back, like making copies.
Mhm.
And she heard her dad calling her from the lobby, and he wasn't just saying like Savannah. She
Yeah.
says her dad's voice is very distinct for one,
Mhm.
but then she said that he was calling her Bear, which is like her
Oh,
childhood nickname.
yeah.
So he was like, Bear, Bear, like, and saying it a few times. I don't know exactly what his voice sounds like, but my guess is like drawly.
Yeah.
Um, and so she replies and she's like, yes, sir, because the
Mhm.
South, I love
It's
it.
yeah. Uh-huh.
And her mom calls out from like further, so the other direction, back further into the office, and is like, what are you doing? And she's like focused on like doing these copies. And she goes, Dad called me. And she was like, and then the second she said that, she was like,
No.
wait a minute. Like, Dad's not even in the state right now. Like, he was
Oh,
like somewhere far away,
else.
like, definitely
Yeah.
not in the lobby. And so um she and her mom like stop what they're doing, and she says like, do what all good Pentecostal women do. They start like praying and doing all this stuff. So this is the one that actually has a bit of a segue into what I think would be a really interesting topic, which is like
Yeah.
religious, like what I put in our notes was like the Vatican, because there's like a ton
Oh.
of conspiracy around like the
Mhm.
Bible and like what the Vatican has stored there, like
Mhm.
chapters of the Bible that were basically like unpublished, and they include like aliens and like all of this stuff that we're
Yeah.
like, wait, we're confirming that's real? Like what?
Mhm.
So
That would be really cool.
yeah, what she is saying though, which I think is really interesting, is like she was like, she notes several times that she's like ex Pentecostal, so
Mhm.
she's no longer religious, at least in that way. And she talks about the reason why, which is like, for whatever reason, she was tasked to like do a lot of this really like dark kind of supernatural kind of stuff, and she's like, I'm convinced that that shit just like locked onto me because I was
Mm.
exposed to so much of it like firsthand. And I think
Yeah.
these were like non-Catholic, like exorcism type things, like really
Mm.
weird.
Yeah.
So anyway, her
Interesting.
story was really interesting. And yeah, I think the like Vatican and looking at like not religious like fanaticism, but like how religion like plays so heavily into some of this stuff, because
Mhm.
like all the conspiracies, and also I mean if you think about like the root of angels and demons and all of that
Yeah.
is Catholicism,
Yeah.
really. So,
Right.
or Christianity. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to
Mm.
make a little plug for that because I think it could be really interesting.
Yeah. Agreed. Like the Da Vinci Code, but
Yeah,
paranormal.
yeah,
Or
exactly.
maybe it was the second book. I can't remember. But like
Yeah,
one of
angels
those.
and demons.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the one.
Which
That
I
was so
love, by the
good.
way. I just rewatched
Yeah.
those movies and I was like, oh my god, these are so good.
I made the mistake of watching the movie right after finishing the book, and
Oh,
it doesn't compare to the book.
hmm,
It's still good, but it was like, what a
I
letdown
agree.
with all the
I agree.
detail of the book. But
I know the book was amazing. I weirdly
yeah.
got a copy from the library when I read it. That was like the I remember my brother giving me shit at the time because it was like the like picture book version
Oh,
kind of,
yeah.
but it was like it was cool because it was like
Mhm.
all of the artifacts that they speak about, they had
Oh,
like really professional photos taken of them and
Yeah.
little like details about like the origins and all like really cool stuff.
Mhm.
But that was the version I had. And so
Yeah.
I was like, there was even this like huge visual component. And then I saw the movie and I was like,
Mm.
okay, I mean, it's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
kinda nice. It supplements
yeah.
your reading experience.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow, love it.
Yeah. So,
Okay, well,
okay,
yeah,
over to
good
you.
idea. Okay. Okay. Well, so I am gonna talk mostly about doppelgangers, which I was looking back in our notes, and I don't think we've done,
Mhm.
like, a dedicated episode to them, which we
Yeah, maybe not.
totally could. Um,
Yeah.
I think people probably know what doppelgangers are, so they're, like, thrown into our other stories at certain points, but basically, I mean, Olivia already talked about it, but a doppelganger is a physical entity that looks like someone, not just the disembodied voice.
Mhm.
So sometimes people say that seeing your doppelganger is a harbinger of bad luck. And then similarly, is this a ghost? Is this a demon? What is happening? No one knows.
Yeah.
So, um, I also just noted that sometimes doppelgangers are equated to evil twins, and sometimes they're called twin stranger. So, if you ever see that, that's what it's referring to. But I just have a few stories of famous people who have seen their
Mm.
doppelgangers that I had never heard of before. And then one longer one that's very fascinating. So, the first is Abraham Lincoln. So,
Honest Abe.
yeah, he apparently saw two faces in the mirror on the night of his first election.
Whoa.
So it was his normal face, and then the second face was his, but just looking really pale and sickly. And he told his wife, Mary, and she interpreted that as a sign of death or sickness coming their way.
Oh,
And
great.
only a few months later, Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. And apparently, I mean, I can't confirm any of these sources. This was on
Yeah.
somebody else's podcast that should I should have recorded the name, but I don't, so I'm sorry. But they said leading up to his death, Lincoln also had dreams of a president being killed. So
Oh
I don't
God.
know. He was just seeing something. Something
Yeah.
was menacing to him.
What
So
what brought like what immediately jumped to my mind when you said he saw two faces is they do those photos of like when they entered office, when they exited
yeah,
office, and like how much they look to have aged.
right.
That's
Yeah,
immediately what I thought of. And didn't they
yeah.
do that with Lincoln? I think they did.
They
Take like
probably
portrait
did.
photos. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure it was like looking into the future almost,
Yeah.
like aging, ailing person version of yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so then that's Abe Lincoln. Then another famous person was Catherine the Great, who was Russia's empress. And she claimed to see her doppelganger sitting on her throne. So she was seeing this person that looked exactly like her, and she ordered the guards to shoot at this person because she was like, I'm here. Who is that? So they shot at,
I'm here. Who the fuck is
yeah.
that?
So they were shooting.
uh,
Obviously, there was nothing there. So um,
hmm.
the bullets didn't affect whatever this was. And Catherine the Great died soon
Oh,
after this happened. So
ew.
could be bad luck.
Creepy.
Um, yeah, and then finally, the last, like, very famous person was Queen Elizabeth the First. She also saw her own image. She walked into her bedroom one day and saw herself looking very sick in bed. It looked
Hmm.
exactly like her, just sickly. And obviously that's very disturbing. And similar to Catherine the Great, Queen Elizabeth died not long after seeing that apparition in her bed. So,
Wow.
very
That
weird.
kind of begs the question, like, is your subconscious trying to tell you you're not well?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But at the
That
same time, I mean, the thing that comes up on all of the like mimic and doppelganger posts on Reddit is like, do you have a carbon monoxide
that's
alarm?
I was just gonna say that. Or like, have you seen a professional like
Yeah, literally.
gotten checked out? Because
Literally.
yeah, and it is weird. But even if it is our subconscious, they're like predicting the future,
Yeah.
basically, which
No, it's
it's
true. I mean,
still
it's totally
weird.
true. It's
Yeah,
super weird.
yeah. So then my last one is more confounding. So this is Emily Saget. I think that's how you would say it.
Well, beautiful
In
pronunciation.
Dijon, France.
Mhm.
So she was, this is in the 1800s. So she was a French teacher working in a boarding school in Latvia. And she, at the time, the people thought that this wasn't, they didn't jump to doppelganger. They thought that she was able she had the ability of bilocation, which is to be in two
Oh,
places at once. But how could you not think that this could be a doppelganger?
yeah.
Like, it's very, I mean, either way, it's
Cut and
insane.
dry.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Interesting.
this was like a mass event where people saw her in two places over and over again. So
Whoa.
they did a full report on this. The authors
Uh-huh.
were Robert Dale Owen, Camille Flammarion, and a Russian parapsychologist, Alexander Aksakov, um, with testimony from a direct witness, Julie de Guldenstube. I don't know if that's right,
Rolls
but
off the tongue.
yes, exactly. So, all right, here's the story. It takes place in 1845 in, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, this institution where she was teaching. There were 42 young ladies living there, chiefly daughters of noble Livonian families. Among them was this witness, Julie, who told the story. So, this new French teacher was hired in 1845, Mademoiselle Emilie Saget. She was 32 years old. Um, they say she was of the northern type, a blonde with very fair complexion, light blue eyes, chestnut hair, slightly above middle size, and of slender figure.
Okay.
She was amiable, quiet, good tempered, but anxious and somewhat excitable. So,
Hmm.
it sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah.
But,
I think I see myself in
yeah,
her, a doppelganger,
exactly.
perhaps.
Exactly. So, a few weeks after she arrived, the first rumors started to swirl. One student might have seen her in one place, while another had met her elsewhere. One day, the governess was giving a lesson to a class of 13 students, including Julie, and while she was writing on a blackboard, the young ladies suddenly saw two of Mademoiselle Saget. The one side, they were side by side with each other. They were
What?
exactly alike and they used the exact same gestures, only that the real person had the chalk in her hand and was actually writing. The other just had her hand up and was doing the exact same motion without any chalk. And they all saw this.
What? It's like a
So,
mass hallucination? What?
yeah, I mean, maybe they had carbon monoxide poisoning, but
Yeah,
either
maybe.
way, they all saw the same thing.
That's crazy.
Yes. So then, soon after, one of the pupils was helped by Mademoiselle Saget. The young lady happened to turn around and look in a mirror that was adjacent to them, and she saw two of this woman standing there again. So two people
What?
identical in the mirror. And over the months, similar phenomena were still repeated. The double sometimes imitating the original exactly, and sometimes they were in two different places entirely. So, the most remarkable phenomenon occurred one day when 42 students were assembled in the same room. They were engaged in embroidery, and through the windows, the young ladies noticed Mademoiselle Saget in the garden gathering flowers, where in the same room, she was also sitting in the same room. So she was out the
She was like
window.
embroidering with them?
Yeah, she was out the window and she was in the classroom at the same
What?
time. And they were all like, I mean, I can only assume it was like, what do you
Yeah, like
do in that
head on
situation?
a swivel, like,
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
Excuse
So,
me, mademoiselle,
yeah.
is that you?
What are you doing here? Yeah. So, I don't know. Um, let's see. They
Weird.
said they remarked that the one out in the garden moved very slowly as if she was drowsy or exhausted. And the one in the room was just sitting there normally. So, um, let's see. Yeah, and that's they don't really say like there's no resolution to that story. So I don't know what happened. Um,
Yeah, how
other
weird.
yeah, other than these authors of this book who came to sort of investigate, and they came to the conclusion of bilocation. But obviously, like, how do you ever prove that that's something that really happens? Especially in 1845, like, I don't know. So I don't think much
Yeah,
came of this, but like, what a weird situation.
yeah, very weird.
So, yeah, Robert Dale Owen. I might
Robert
want to
Dale Owen.
read the full report because,
That's
wow,
so weird.
yeah. But yeah, that's all I have for doppelgangers. I'm sure that there's way more that we could do a
Yeah,
full episode because, like, I'm sure on Reddit people have stories about when they met their doppelganger and what
yeah.
happened afterwards. But I don't know what to
Yeah,
make of that.
I don't know what to make of it either. I mean, I think too, like the the idea of like I don't know, so many of these things I feel like people are really adamant about the explanation or the description or the origin or whatever. And
Mhm.
like the lack of that for these is just so weird. Like it's just like I don't know what to make of that. Like I
Yeah,
just yeah, I don't know what to make of that. So
yeah,
I don't know, it's weird. I have more of the doppelganger stories, but they're all kind of the same. It's like thinking you hear someone, you go and check that, whatever, they're like respond or whatever, and then they walk in through another door. So there was one that I really liked that I was trying to find, and I thought I had saved it on TikTok, but I didn't.
mhm,
But it was they had like a Nest camera or something like that, like set up in the kitchen, I guess.
yeah,
um and it shows like the visual is like it looks like maybe it's set up like on a windowsill, like I don't know, or something at the end of the room, and the view you have is like the just through the kitchen, like a little like wide hallway is the
mhm,
kitchen, and then there's like a doorway that goes to the right and then a doorway that goes to the left. That one goes to like a bathroom. There's like another little room, maybe a laundry room, and then a bathroom. You can see the bathroom door, but
yeah,
it's like maybe 10 feet from the end of the kitchen.
mhm,
So it's like the fridge is directly on the left, the sink is like halfway down the wall on the right, and there's like a window to the outside, whatever, like very standard setup.
yeah,
And there's the dad is like in the pantry on like the far left side of the visual. And you can hear like the front door or whatever door that is out of view, like on to the left of the camera,
Mhm.
open and close. And you can kind of hear some like sounds like someone coming into the house. And then the dad starts like talking to someone.
Mhm.
And but there's no, you don't hear any response. You're just like seeing him talking to someone about like, hey honey, like what do you think you want for dinner, blah blah blah. And
Mhm.
then he's like, he says something like, okay, yeah, like when you get back inside we'll start cooking. So it's like you can tell she or it has said something like, I'm gonna run this out and then I'll be
Yeah.
right back.
Mhm.
Same thing, you hear the person like, you hear something like moving, the door
Yeah.
opening and closing, and
Mhm.
then some time passes and he's like clearly like, where did they go? And so he starts walking towards the camera, and then that bathroom door that was at the far end opens and his daughter comes out and he's like, how the hell did you
What?
get back there? And she's
Mhm.
like, what are you talking about? Like, I've been
Yeah. I've been
Wiz
there.
or
Yeah.
whatever. I've been in there.
Uh-huh.
And he was
Oh.
like, I just saw you. Like, you just were in the house. Like, we were just talking about dinner. Like, do you not remember that? And she's like, no,
Mhm.
that did not happen. Like, I've been in the bathroom. Like,
Right.
it was just really weird. And it's something where, of course, it could have been faked. Like, that would have
Mhm.
been very easy to fake. Just have someone open the door, close it, whatever, make those sounds.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm too trusting, but I do feel like there you can kind of get a sense for some people and how like he seemed genuinely like freaked out by what had happened. And so
Mhm.
unless it was like someone playing a prank on him, but he'd have to have twins because it was clear that he was like looking at someone.
Right.
He was like in like lifting his head and engaging
Yeah.
with them. So it's
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Mm.
It was really weird. It was really
Yeah.
weird. So
Extremely.
that I think was like one of the best ones I've seen in terms of like getting a like real visual of that experience, which like how freaky.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, that idea of like bilocation is really
Yeah.
interesting because it almost crosses like mimic slash doppelganger with like astral projection
Mhm.
and like
That's what I was
something
thinking.
along those lines.
Mhm.
I guess, or mass hallucination, which is like not
Would
great.
Yeah, which would also be spooky. Like,
Right.
what's
Of
happening?
course.
But
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's
yeah,
true. Cause like I don't even really understand how that happens. I mean, I guess if you all have like carbon monoxide poisoning, you could all hallucinate at the same time, but how would you hallucinate the same thing?
same. Yeah, I know.
That
That's a
just
good question.
seems that just seems really unlikely to me, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Which
agree.
maybe it's not, but
That's like,
anyway, it's a weird one.
yeah, and I think we did this, like, very early on. It's
Mhm.
maybe ayahuasca or something along
Mm.
those lines, where people have the same vision, usually, like, of a
Death or the
jaguar.
afterlife? Yeah.
Yeah, every time, and, like, obviously, those of us who are coming from, like, San Francisco to go to
Mhm.
the Peruvian jungle for an
Yeah,
ayahuasca retreat, like,
right.
don't have jaguars in our lives,
No,
so why are we
no.
seeing I mean, I don't know if it's actually that, but it's just
Yeah.
weird, a shared
Yeah, no, it
experience.
is. It is really weird. And then there's it's like it's also complicated, right? Because like our brains are so good at processing data that we're not even like fully conscious of.
Mhm.
So like the power of suggestion, or maybe
Yeah.
at all of these ayahuasca ceremonies there's some word they use in another language that sounds like
Yeah,
in English the thing that they see or
right.
whatever. Like I don't I'm
Mhm.
just like pulling at straws, but it's just interesting because I think there's so much that goes into it that like we're never going to know. We're never
Mhm.
going to know why that is, if it is something like otherworldly and like spiritual, or if it's just like our brains doing what our brains do,
Yeah, right.
which is just so wild.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and
It's
this
so
is
fascinating.
this is all over the place. I'm just, like, jumping everywhere right
No,
now,
I love
but
it.
when I clicked into bilocation just a little bit, it was,
Yeah.
like, other studies, I guess, that had been not really studies, but
Yeah.
people were like, "This is witchcraft," and I they were saying Salem, where people were seeing this witch, but the actual person wasn't there. Like, that people were like,
Oh.
"This is bilocation."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
So,
right. That's right. That was like
it's
a fundamental part of the
yeah,
witch trials, I think.
yeah, or even them appearing in visions,
Yeah.
like, that's your spiritual
Yeah.
body appearing to
Yeah.
someone, even if your physical body is not
A dream
there.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
that's
that's
like
really
astral
interesting.
projection. So
Yeah.
it's
That's really
interesting.
interesting.
And then
Yeah.
last thing I'll say is from
Yeah.
Reddit when I was just going through all these threads. There was one on the side that was like, "The veil is getting thinner!" exclamation point. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
But it was somebody was at Home Depot and he was looking at whatever he was going to buy, and he saw someone coming behind him, and then they never reappeared on the other side. So he like moved out of the way, looked around, and there was no one there. And everyone in the comments was like, "This has been happening to me so often lately, where I will
That's
know,
so
yeah,
weird.
or like register someone and then there's no one there."
Oh
So
my God.
is I don't know if they're implying that like parallel universes are,
Yeah, glitch in the matrix kind of
yeah,
stuff. I've
exactly.
been coming across a ton of those stories.
Yeah.
We definitely have to do another glitch in the
Yeah.
matrix episode because it's
Let's
like
do it.
I've been saving up like a little squirrel preparing for winter with those stories, and they're really good.
Okay. Okay,
They're just
perfect.
so compelling because like doesn't everyone have an instance of that where it's
Mhm.
like I refuse to believe we're living in a simulation, but
Mhm.
like it's got that feeling to it.
Yeah.
Like remember that one where like he dropped the spoon and the spoon
Yeah.
just never
Never.
landed and
Yeah.
disappeared? Like,
Uh-huh.
and I have things that like I don't usually lose stuff. Like I really don't usually lose stuff. I think I
Mhm.
told you about this. I may have even said it
Yeah.
on the pod, but I had like a pill pack and like
Right.
a vape, like a weed pen,
Mhm.
which is legal here, by the
Yep.
way. Um, just for anyone listening
Uh-huh.
who wants to be litigious.
Yep.
Um, they just disappeared. Like
Right.
from the same bag around the same time in an instance that made no sense. Like they were double zipped in
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
Just really weird shit like that. And they've never turned up. I had a
Yeah.
scrunchie that went missing, and I was like, maybe my cat ate it. Like I tore my house apart looking for it. And it was like a thick boy like this. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
like a little one, like who cares? But it was like my
Yeah.
favorite scrunchie. It was like a Lululemon like athletic
Mm.
one.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? Where did that go? And then I looked everywhere because I remember I had left it on the counter in the bathroom and I was
Mhm.
showering with the door closed because Binks would come in and knock stuff off the counter. And I
Mm.
came out and it was gone. And I was like,
Hmm.
what? And I was like, I must have taken it off somewhere else. But I've like torn the place apart. It has never resurfaced.
Interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool.
The
That's good.
parallel universe you needed a scrunchie.
Yeah, she was like, "Where's my scrunchie,
Yeah.
bitch?" Literally. Oh my
Uh,
god. That's wild.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm excited for another. We'll have to decide what we want to do next week.
Yes, we will.
And you all will find out next week.
Yeah. I can't wait for
I
whatever
can't
it is.
wait. Yay, me too. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully, I'm not being haunted now. I'm like still
Mhm.
freaked out by that
Yeah,
weird
same.
happening.
Yep.
I'm definitely going to be searching like how that could have happened because I don't like that at all.
No.
And I'm going to see in the post production if it comes through on the video
Yeah. Oh
because
god.
if it doesn't, I don't know if I'd prefer for it to come through or not. I think I do
Um,
because then it's
yeah.
intentional. Then it's like a feature probably.
Okay.
Anyway, it
No.
was weird. I'm glad
Yeah.
I didn't just see it because if I
No.
had just seen it, I would have like really freaked out.
Yeah.
Been like, I need a carbon monoxide detector.
ASAP.
um,
Yeah. No, I saw it
ASAP.
too. It
But
was,
yikes.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm definitely not haunted because that's not allowed.
No.
Um, but send us your spooky stories at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys next week. Stay spooky.
Woohoo! Stay spooky. Bye.